Gary, this is Chuck. Can you hear me?
Hi,
Yep.
Chuck. Yes, I can.
Okay, great.
The only person I think we're missing is Joe Chadwick.
I see him.
You do? Oh, I didn't see him.
Raise his hand.
There he is. Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
Yeah. Sorry, it took for some reason I just could not log on tonight.
No problem. Okay, so we are all here.
Okay, I have...
Recording in progress.
Okay, we'll call this meeting of the Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is a special meeting. It is Wednesday, August 7th, 2024. We'll start and I have 7:01 p.m., I believe, right now. We'll start by introducing members of the commission and staff. So, Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Thank you, Joe. Fred Russo. Fred, are you here?
Fred Russo, present.
Joe Viuso. Joe, are you here?
Joe Viuso here.
Thanks, Joe. Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, are you here?
Marcy Pelusi's here.
Thank you, Marcy. Massimo Liguri. Massimo, are you here?
Massimo Liguri's here.
Thanks, Massimo. Sharon Hutner. Sharon, are you here? Sharon's waving, although...
Oh, sorry. I thought I'd unmuted, made you a co-host. I apologize. Should be all set. There you go.
All right, there I go. Sharon Hutner is here.
Thank you, Sharon. Our staff this evening is our town planner, Harry Smith. Harry, you're here.
I am.
And our assistant planner, Evan Brining. Evan, you're here.
Here.
And lurking in the cloud is our clerk recording secretary, Michelle Martin. I am Chuck Anders, chair. I'm going to ask our secretary to read the notice of public hearing. Fred?
Yes. Legal notice, special legal notice, Town of Branford. The Planning and Zoning Commission of the Town of Branford, Connecticut hereby gives notice of public hearing to be held on Wednesday, August 7th, 2024 at 7 p.m. by remote technology to consider the applications listed below. Information regarding how to participate in the public hearing will be provided on the Commission's meeting agenda that will be posted on the town's website at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. Application number 24-7.3, special exception in coastal site plan for grading, section 6.8, located at 28 Kirkham Avenue, in parentheses 0 Elm Street, Pent Road LLC, in care of Joe Lepre, applicant and owner. Application number 24-7.4, special exception for grading, section 6.8, associated with a proposed development located at 1201 West Main Street, Faulkner Island Development LLC, applicant Anthony J. LaSalle, trustee, owner. All said hearing at said hearings, all persons will have the right to be heard. Copies are on file in the Planning and Zoning Commission's office at the Planning and Zoning Department, 1019 Main Street, Branford, Connecticut, 06405. Written communications may be sent to the above address or to Planning and Zoning, Branford-ct.gov. Branford Planning and Zoning Commission, C. Andres, chairperson.
Chuck Anders here. Thank you, Fred. We'll follow our normal format for public hearings, which is the applicant goes first, makes his presentation. After the application is done, we turn it over to the commission staff. Typically, we'll hear a staff report, summary of the staff report, open up for question or comments by commission members. After we complete that portion, we turn it over for public comment. We ask that you, I'm going to ask Evan in a moment to explain how you can participate as a member of the public when you get to the public portion. We ask that you identify yourself, name and address for the record, make your comments, and then after the public portion is done, we allow the applicant to respond to any public comments and turn it over for any further questions and comments from commission members. We may or may not close the public hearing depending on how it goes. So with that, I'm going to ask Evan to explain the process for participating in the public hearing. Evan?
Sure. Down at the bottom of your screen, there's a raise hand button. Please select this if you'd like to ask a comment or ask a question or make any comments. You can also type into the chat that you'd like to speak, or wave your hand in front of the camera and I'll try to catch you. If you're dialing in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand, and we ask that everyone please state their name at the beginning of their comment or question.
Chuck Candace here. Thank you, Evan. We're going to be following our agenda. There are actually 10 items listed on our public hearings, so we're going to go sequentially. The first item is 23 North Main Street LLC, care of Dan Imano, applicant and owner. That's 23 North Main Street, a special exception for automobile washing and or lubricating and detailing. And I understand that this application has been withdrawn. Is that correct, Harry and Evan?
That's correct. The applicant is going to be resubmitting and coming back with all 3 properties that their business operates on in one application.
Okay, thank you, Evan. I believe that was a staff recommendation. So then we'll proceed then to item number 2 and 3. Both of those are Faulkner Island Development LLC, 1201 West Main Street, special exception coastal site plan, and also special exception for grading. This is a public hearing that we had opened at our last meeting. I don't know if the applicant has additional information like to present at this time, or what's the status for this one.
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Since during this afternoon, the applicant sent an email essentially granting a time extension and requesting that they not present tonight and that the applications be continued to the 9/5 September 5th meeting of the commission. I believe the applicant's representative is on the call for another application. I don't know if he wants to add anything.
No, I would just like to reiterate that we would like to request continuance to September to kind of work with town staff on some of the concerns for the project.
Chuck Edgester, thank you, Mr. Hooley.
So we do, just elaborate. Number 2, we do have a time extension for the special exception coastal site plan motor vehicle service. The special exception for grading, public hearings being open tonight. So that can continue without a time extension to the 5th of September.
Okay. So if you're here on that, and I know that we had a lot of public comments for our opening of the public hearing for those items, that we're continuing that to our September 5th. There's additional information that I believe the town engineer, and there are some other issues that were being resolved. So that we'll hear that at our September 5th meeting, again, a Zoom meeting at September 7th. So with that, yes, excuse me?
September 5th, Chuck, sorry.
September 5th, I'm sorry. Yes, September 5th. Thank you, Harry, for correcting that. So with that, then I will, if you can't make September 5th, let me just do this. Did any member of the public wish to comment? Again, there's going to, we are continuing this. I think there's going to be additional information submitted, but if you can't make September 5th, does any member of the public wish to comment?
Sharon has raised her hand.
Sharon Smith Alling, 50 Home Place. I'm not sure if I'm going to be away that day, so I would just like to express my concern. I know the town hall, when I went to the town hall, they said there won't be any blasting. When Aldi's went in, they said we spoke to the lawyer there, they said there was going to be minimal blasting and it wasn't going to affect our area. And I have damage in my house because of the blasting. So I just am concerned if it goes forward they're going to ask for a special exception to blast. And second concern is the driveway is going to be right on Main Street, or they call it West Main Street in the beginning of that part. That's right where everybody turns. And it's already a disaster in that area between the gas station, people turning from Route 1. And I don't see how there's going to be, it's going to be feasible to have an exit and entrance. Even if you told the people they can only take a right instead of a left, people don't follow those directions. And so I think that it's going to be just a traffic nightmare. And so those are my two biggest concerns is traffic nightmare, accidents. There's way too much traffic in that area. And then also blasting.
Thank you, Sharon. We had one other comment. We really we're hoping not to have a whole lot of public comment, but again, if you want to say something briefly, and again, maybe alert the applicant of things that need to be addressed in the next hearing, go ahead. But what do we got? Who else we got, Evan?
Annette C.
Good evening. My name is Annette Chawanyik. I live at 81 Main Street, Unit 41C here in Branford. I'm right next door to where this proposal is being made. I understand that I had said something before about the blasting and my concern about blasting. The thing is, it doesn't make any difference whether you're talking about blasting or heavy machinery. You're going to be talking about um, a lot of vibration to an area that it is a lot of rock, and that travels. It's one of the things that I'm worried about. But aside from that, the points were already made about the traffic and the patterns there. Just ridiculous. I just don't understand it. And lastly, I'm just going to make this proposition. Just because something is zoned commercial doesn't mean that everything has to be commercial. In fact, I think it might behoove us to think in terms of boundaries, buffer zones, so that there isn't an influx of constant commercial construction and noise and crowding. So that's it for right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak again or continuing this public hearing? I see one more. Evan?
Michael Conti.
Well, good evening. I'm Michael Conti. I live at 81 Main Street, Unit 48C. And I have to reiterate a few things that were already said by some people here and add a few things. First of all, I don't know what the definition of grading might be. I don't know what that entails. Number two, I'd like to know the distance between the properties. How much is going to be graded, which leaves the amount of trees between Rockledge and the new business. I'm concerned about the lighting. I'm concerned about the signage. And I also looked at the plans for the entrance and exits. Now, the entrance is coming by, and all of you from Branford, you come by Aldi's, you head toward the center of town, and you're supposed to pull into the right. And then when you leave, you're supposed to come out and then go back to the right, headed toward the center of town. That makes sense. However, what if you're coming from the center of town? There's no way, because the curve comes from Aldi's, and the plans show entrance from the Aldi side and exit toward the town side. So that to me doesn't make any sense at all, because that's going to cause a lot of issues. So those are my concerns. Also, I really wish that, they were able to have the meeting tonight, because there's a lot of people here who made plans to be here tonight, as the commissioners have. And to postpone it for another month, well, there's nothing I can do about that. However, there are people here who made plans to be here tonight to hear proposals, and now it's postponed again. So, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Conti. Who else?
Vi Guglielmi.
Yes, hi, I'm Vi Guglielmi. I live at 81 Main Street. I'm neighbors to Mr. County and Annette. And I spoke at the last meeting. And again, I just want to reiterate what they're saying. I don't need to repeat it because that's what I was going to say about the entrance and them turning right. Right now, it's like a pretzel, and people coming from Aldi's and even Walmart, you don't know whether you're going right or left. I had asked at the last meeting if there was going to be a traffic study done. I thought there was going to be a traffic study done. I just was wondering if that would be reported. That's what I was kind of hoping tonight's meeting would also have been held, as long as the results, there was something about a wetlands meeting on July 18th. Would that be spoken of as well? Now that's been postponed as well. All that information has to wait now until September. I mean, that is a holiday week for a lot of people. And it'll be a shame if people can't be there. That's all I'm saying. Mr. Conti's correct in his assessment as well. This is going to affect our community greatly, but everybody coming and going, which I stated at the last meeting, the traffic nightmare will continue. There's been accidents in front of our building, in front of our in and out already. There are times we cannot get out of our units here at Rockledge Condominium, and the loss of privacy and noise and everything else that everyone mentioned can't be understated. Okay, so I thank you for your time. And I would just like to know about the traffic study and the wetlands as well. Is that going to be also held up now until the 5th?
Thank you, Ms. Guglani. Harry and Evan, perhaps the applicant, we did request that the applicant provide an additional traffic study. There was a traffic report, I believe, that the applicant submitted. There were some follow-up comments on that report by the town engineer. And I believe that's one of the reasons we're continuing, because there are, and actually raising some of the same issues that have been raised, particularly the left turn in and so forth. But if there is, how can the public get a copy of the materials that are submitted if they're interested, Harry and Evan?
Harry Smith, town planner. Anyone can come to the office. We do have I believe it's a 4-page document called the traffic overview. And we have some correspondence back and forth between town staff and the applicant that contains some additional information that's available here. We can make copies for people. We can try and post this on the town website, which will be under the planning and zoning department section. If anyone has any questions, they can give a call into the office here. We probably won't have that up. We'll try and do it by Friday, but depends what goes on. Otherwise, you can call here at the office at 203-488-1255. That's 203-488-1255. It's planning and zoning department line. And they can tell you whether it's up on town website. And the hours of the office here are 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. So if you can come into the office and get physical copies, you can do that. We'll try and get it on town's website so people can see it there as well.
Thank you, Harry. While we're at it, because we're continuing this public hearing, I would ask the applicant, I don't know if Mr. Hooley is listening. One question I had is, one of the main issues raised by the public and the staff and myself and others is the traffic, again, coming off of the Route 146, the entrance. Again, both of the options to get into the site are problematic. Has there been any attempt to, I think you abut what we call the Chase Aldi site, the land actually abuts it, and that has a light that goes into it. It would be great if, to avoid a curb cut, if there was some way that you could make arrangements with them. And I don't know if that's even feasible, but anyway, I'm curious about it. So that's something maybe you can address at the next hearing. That would be helpful. So thank you, Mr. Lee. Any other commission members that want to throw in anything to be addressed at the next hearing that, or gives the applicant any information? I know we've raised all this stuff, staff has raised all this stuff, but if there's anything additional we want to call to their attention. Any commission members? Okay, hearing none, then we will continue these matters. Again, these items 2 and 3. This is continued to our September 5th meeting. That's also Zoom meeting at 7 p.m. Thank you. So it brings us into item numbers 4 and 5. The applicants in those cases are, in each case, is Pent Road LLC. The address is 20 Kirkham Street, also 0 Elm Street. It's two special exception applications for two-family dwellings. And I don't know if the applicant is ready to proceed with that one.
Yes.
Okay, you can proceed.
Hello, my name is Joe Lepre. I live at 14 Flat Rock Road here in Branford. I come before you now. I'm representing the property I own on 28 Kirkham Street. We went to ZBA to get clarification on the issue of using two structures on the site. ZBA regulations said we had to have one structure. We meet all the bulk requirements, and in my opinion, I would rather see two smaller structures than one large structure. I think that the two smaller structures match the surrounding area much better. And that was the clarification and the approvals we got from ZBA. We then went to Center of Town Review. We took their comments and we went to a second meeting and we got approvals from Center of Town Review Board. As you could see, the site is in the back of 26 and 28 Kirkham Street. I have a deeded right-of-way right now from 26 and 28 to allow this new driveway to be installed. As you could see at Kirkham Street, we currently have a 24-foot curb cut. However, what we'd like to do is shift the curb cut down slightly, headed towards 30 Kirkham. It allows better flow to come in, and it also allows us to, we're going to be removing 580 square feet of asphalt to kind of soften the approach coming in with some plants. Right now it's paved right up to the house. So in allowing us to shift it down, it allows us a couple of things. It lets us soften the approach. It's also going to let us parallel park two cars along that curb, which those will access 26. And what we'll do is we'll come down this roadway, the driveway here, which partially is already paved. Like I said, we're only moving 4 feet of the curb cut. One of the comments from the town engineer was the curb cut, and we will definitely be taking the curb cut out, obviously, and repouring it in concrete as per the engineering specs. The roadway will come down, and as you can see, there's an existing garage here. This existing garage will be removed. We're going to take care to make sure that we do not disturb this. We have a 36-inch birch tree, which is a really nice tree. We have two on site. We have two trees. We have this 36, and we have a very large maple. And it's one of the reasons why we're running the driveway the way we are, is to stay away from the roots of each one of these trees. So this garage will be removed. One of the questions from staff was stockpiling of material. This garage is set up like it was a two garages. It's a garage and a lean-to. So the plan right now is to take the lean-to part down, which is where the driveway will be. And any of our topsoil or any of our material that we're going to need to store on site will be stored right in that area. And we would leave half of this garage in place for construction until we're finished. And once the construction is completed, we'll take the rest of the garage down, and that whole area will become grass, topsoil and grass. One other comment from the town engineer was that we don't have a curb on the roadway. Right now, the water sheds off into the grassed area, and that's what I'd like to do, is to maintain that. A couple of reasons. Like I said, we have that 36-inch birch, and we also are going to have a large grassed area. So we, it'd be nice to have the water shed off into that area. We are maintaining a 20-foot driveway that'll come down, and it'll feed into both of these houses. Each building will be 1,200 square feet. They're going to be built to FEMA regulations. As you can see, our proposed top of floor is 13.5. We meet all the requirements for the parking spots. One of the other comments from the engineer was the grading at the end of the parking lot to the tidal wetlands, and we meet the criteria of the slope. That was just one of the other comments we received. On the next page, Evan, if you could just go to the next page. Nope.
Which one is that? Which one are you looking for, Joe?
I'm looking at the grading and drainage plan.
This one?
Yeah, that one. Thank you. As you can see, we had a storm tech system that was designed. We did the test pits. The test pit data is on the plan. Our proposal is we're going to curb this area in here to control this water where the two duplexes are. Everything will drain into the one catch basin, and the catch basin will then feed the Coltech system. We have the control structures in place. Our downspout water will also be going through there. And then what we'll have is an overflow pipe that'll go into the biodetention basin, which will be in the back. The biodetention basin will have a level spreader at the end. We're trying to maintain that grade on the level spreader because one of the things on this property is that there is a sewer manhole. You'll see it's right on the edge of our property where we meet the train station. And upon occasion, the sewer authority needs to come in and clean out that manhole. There is an access for them with an easement that goes through our property. However, their easement was cut off when they did the development for the train station. You'll see they have a bio pond at the end of the easement, which prevents the truck from coming down here. I've been in touch with the town engineer and a couple of people from WPCA, and I'm going to grant them right away so that they can always access this through, and they'll have an area to park the truck where our catch basin is, obviously. And then, like I said, we're maintaining somewhat of a level area so that they can access this sewer manhole at any time. One of the other things that was brought up was the construction entrance. Our construction entrance is going to come off of Elm Street. We have a 14-foot driveway that's already has gravel on it, so it would make the perfect anti-tracking pad already. And that's what we plan on for a construction entrance. So our construction vehicles will not be coming in or exiting Kirkham. They'll be coming in through Elm and through this right of way. And then once the project is close to completion, the existing garage, what was left of it, will be knocked down, and then this driveway will be finished and tied into Kirkham. I said I tried to answer some of the comments from the town engineer. Unfortunately, our revised plans, we didn't get them there for him to review. One of his comments, and I believe we've covered all of them. I said you can see where we had the tidal wetlands. We had the tidal wetlands flagged, as you can see on the plan, each one of our flaggings. And you can also see that both of our duplexes not only meet the bulk requirements, but they also set within the boundary of the setbacks. With that, I will turn it over to Harry.
Chuck Anderson, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lepper. I think, Evan, you did the staff report on this one?
That's correct. Yeah, sure. I think Joe covered most of the points in my staff report or of any outstanding items. They got variances from the ZBA on May 21st to allow two principal structures. They meet the bulk requirements, as well as the off-street parking requirements. The submitted plans were submitted to the town engineer, whose comments were circulated with the staff report. A few outstanding items that may require some revisions to the site plans. So we're really just waiting on that. They satisfied the coastal site plan criteria as well as the special exception criteria. They appeared before the town center board on July 10th. The board had some recommended, or they did recommend acceptance, and they also had some modifications that they would like to be introduced. They can work those into the conditions of approval. And staff recommends that the public hearing be continued to allow the additional information to be submitted by the applicant.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Evan. Any questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public or staff? Hearing none, then let's open up, see if any member of the public wish to comment. Any member of the public wish to comment on these items? Evan, remind us what they need to do.
Sure. Down at the bottom of your screen, there's a raise hand button. You can also type in the chat that you'd like to participate. I do not see anyone.
Okay. Okay, and Evan, you recommended, I know that we did get a letter from the town engineer, there are a number of items, and it sounded like they were in the process of being addressed. So the recommendation is to continue this matter to our September 5th hearing. Is Mr. Lepre, does that work for you?
Yes, that'll be plenty of time. We're hoping to have those plans in the next couple of days.
Okay, great. Okay, then, so absent any further comments by commission members or staff? Hearing none, then we'll continue items, matters 4 and 5 to our September 5th Zoom meeting. Again, that starts at 7 p.m. So thank you, Mr. Lepre. So that brings us then to items number 6, 7, 8, and 9, which is the CP Branford LLC, care of attorney John Nuff, the Stop and Shop Supermarket Company, aka Twist Realty Inc. And this is a PDD master plan, PDD site plan, special exception for grading, and a 3-lot subdivision. Again, this is the Regal site. There we have opened the public hearing. We've had it's a continuation of the public hearing that we opened, I believe, in our last meeting, and made a few comments. And Mr. Nuff, are you ready to proceed?
We are ready, Mr. Chairman. For the record, John Nuff, with an address of 135 Broad Street in Milford, Connecticut, here tonight on behalf of the applicants. As you know, Mr. Chairman, we were here with you last month. We received comments. I know you were very busy that night, but I think in general, the comments fell into 3 different categories from each of the commission members. 1 is density, 2 is the design and architecture, and 3 is the circulation. We have provided, as I think we really tried to do in earnest for the past 15 months or so, respond to the commission and to staff in a very meaningful way. I noted in my memo that, we view this as a collaboration between the commission and the town and staff and us. And I think we've taken that very seriously. And the things that we submitted last Friday, it should have been in your packet and delivered to you last Friday, is further demonstration of that. And just for the record, we submitted last week a memo from me dated August 2nd in regard to primarily the density question, as well as the subdivision comments. Ray Sullivan submitted a memo, as well as revised architecture and renderings. We submitted revised site plans from Schmitz and BL companies that dramatically improved the circulation. And by the way, parenthetically, Harry was kind enough to make time for John Mancini and I to meet with him. Literally made changes to the site plan with regard to circulation. Harry has some other ideas, and we incorporated those to the maximum extent possible. So as I said, this is all as a way of indicating, how earnestly we are trying to respond to both Harry's comments as well as the commission's. In addition to those revised plans, we have a response to the town engineer memo. We have a response to the SLR traffic memo. We have provided a exhibit with regard to demonstrating that both the property line and the self-storage building exceeds the 5,000-foot requirements. That is with coordinates. So we can't get any more specific or give you any better verification than that. I would note that we received our inland wetland approval a week or so ago, and the revised plans that you have incorporated all the changes, and they're minor, frankly, all the changes that were included in that wetland set. So I'm not going to give you the laundry list of all the things that we've done to date. I think you know all that. What I want to do is respond briefly to the density question or density comments last time, and then let Ray Sullivan walk you through the changes to the architecture, give you a little bit more about how he's trying to create a community feel on behalf of his clients, and then have John Schmitz walk you through the changes to the circulation, which I think are dramatic. I don't think we need to hear specifically from Chris Mitchellick, who is our architect on the self-storage building, Josh Wheeler, who is landscape architect, Mike Kirker, who is our traffic engineer. They're all here, happy to answer any questions, but the presentation is going to be primarily me, Ray, and John Schmitz. So just with regard to density, and I know that we spent some time in this, but this is an indication, a good example of the way in which we try to respond to the town's comments and requests. We are asked to provide greater density, and we are asked to respond to or utilize the standards in the IHOD regulation. And we did that. We are providing 20% affordable units. The IHOD allows you to calculate density at 20 units per acre for the entire of the site. We are at 15.5 units per acre of the site. So, as I said, there's only so much we can do with regard to density. There is a trade-off with when you have a greater percentage of affordable, you're going to have a greater density. And that is exactly what the IHOD regulations recognize. And in our case, we are significantly below the 20 units per acre. I'm happy to discuss that further, but I think we want to get to some of the other good things that have changed since we were here before you last time. And so I want to turn over to Ray Sullivan to talk about the architecture. We heard comments that it's softer, sort of more residential in feel, a better distinction between the residential architecture and the self-storage building. And I think Ray has accomplished that. And I hope you've all had a chance to take a look at his memo as well as the revised renderings. That I'll turn it over to Ray.
Thanks, John. Good evening. This is Ray Sullivan from the Sullivan Architectural Group. We're at 129 Broad Street in Milford. So if I can share the screen. Hopefully everybody can see that.
We got it right.
So, so this first image is it's just a small snapshot. It's the one of the previous site plans and the current site plan. And so with the redesign of the site plan, we feel that we've created a much softer site plan. You can see that so much of the residential building, kind of borders and looks out over a very large parking area. And we had some of the commercial traffic, that would be kind of queuing up, right by, the end of the residential buildings, and that would happen at off hours, and that wasn't a great effect. And we do have this large parking lot in here in the building in front. We didn't get a chance really to shield much of that parking field, from the street or create much street front activity, other than cars and in queuing. So I think we've got a much softer site plan here. First of all, we get a building on the street that's got more presence. I think it's aesthetically more pleasing and consistent with the rest of the buildings. It's also long enough, and I'll show you some views that it really shields, the parking that is behind. As we arranged the buildings, we arranged it around what is almost a half acre of green space, nice exterior amenity space, adjoining the units. Now, for instance, if I could have, I would have taken building 5 and slid it down to be centered here. But the other thing that happened is that as opposed to this large parking field, when we broke up the residential building into 4, we're actually able to spread out and disperse the parking. So actually, the length of travel from various parking spaces is actually shorter, in this more dispersed layout than it is in this larger, more concentrated layout. So I'm just gonna. The second image is a blow up of that, approximately, half an acre of kind of green space here that is bordered by 3 of the buildings. And I guess my kind of overall statement of this is that I think we've achieved a proportionate mix of soft and hardscape that supports an active outdoor activity while maintaining landscaping lawn areas. So we've got nice walkways and almost nothing is a straight line. We've got areas for people to gather, whether or not they're hardscape areas around fire pits or softer lawn areas. We've got grill stations. We've got a trellis, with some dining areas, and we were careful not to make too much of this because we also wanted enough, landscape and soft area so that it would keep the noise down and enhance the view from all the residents. And I think we've got some views to follow that will show that. We do have a tot lot, which is, if you go just down this sidewalk right here, the tot lot is at the end. It's a small tot lot area, and it's something that the client feels very comfortable with. He's got another project in Branford. He built a larger tot lot that gets very, very little use. And so it made sense to provide a tot lot, but not too large. But we've got it kind of at the end where some of these areas, might be a little quiet conversation. Maybe it could get a little louder in the tot lot area. And the tot lot area actually has a lot of lawn area. So if kids want to play ball or whatnot, it's maybe a more appropriate place for that. We've got a few views, of that amenity area, and this view here is looking east, and I think one thing it says right off the top is even though that exterior amenity area is not that large, it's not 2 acres of land. But I think the mix between the 3-story buildings and the irregular shape of the hard and softscape, I think we create a real, almost like a cozy presence out here that is very, very livable, very, very walkable, and creates good views, from, within the units. I'll talk about the architecture, a little bit in a minute, but here we are picking up the comments from the commission and making the buildings look more traditional in nature. This looks out towards 95 is behind those trees, so from that circle where you first enter that outdoor amenity area, we're looking out towards the grill stations and the dining area underneath the trellis. But you will notice that there's very ample green space all around. So we want to create that good proportionate mix of hard and soft area. When we turn to the far end and look west on the view, again, these are some of these sitting areas, around the fire pits. One thing this does pick up, again, on the architectural side is on the previous design, we had overhangs over the front doors to all the buildings, but the more contemporary expression of that is that we had cable supports, so they were hung kind of off the building, and we thought in a more traditional fashion we'd provide some more trim and put them down on columns, which we thought, created a much more, traditional look. So this is a partial view of the front building. So, in essence, again, we created, we transitioned from that more contemporary to a softer traditional look. This is only a little bit more than half the building, but then you see the next building beyond. You'll see here, you actually, if you're out on the street, there's very little view back to the interior. So we're really, creating a presence on the street and think that we are shielding, the parking and some of the asphalt, behind. And to also create more of a presence on the street, we've got commercial spaces over here with large windows. These two spaces behind here are actually amenity spaces, fitness center and rec area for the residents, and we've created this really nice terrace area that is out on the road. So I think that we've kind of softened the front that faces the street. We've created street front activity, with this plaza, and I think we've created a good visual barrier, which was once viewing towards a lot of traffic movement, parking and asphalt. And scrolling down to the last view is, so the upper view, the reality is the materials didn't change very much. It was just a contemporary expression, using the same material. So instead of, I've got this broken down in the memo. Instead of this darker gray material, we've got the softer red. Instead of a white siding as an accent, where you've got that dark and white contrast. We've used kind of a beige taupe color, which blends more with softer red brick. So its color palette is similar as opposed to more stark in the contemporary one. The more contemporary one had these big heavy parapets. You could zoom in, but they were big and heavy. We've pulled these back. The parapets in the contemporary one had very little trim, but we've added more traditional trims on this. This one you can't see very well, but it was really flat, so we pulled that out a little bit. So it's just a development of some of the more traditional details that we're trying to enhance and bring this from that contemporary feel to a more traditional feel. This one had these aluminum sunshades. They're now gone. This was a bracketed overhang, and now the overhang is post supported. In both cases, the windows were double hung, but we've added a little bit more mullion treatment here. So I think in general, it's funny that the actual materials did not change significantly, but it's the color tone and the detail that I think drastically changed the look and the feel of the building, which we're reading from the commission, which was where you thought that we'd be better positioned at. So I hopefully you feel the same as we do, that we've achieved a kind of a much softer and more traditional feel in the design. So John, I'll conclude with that unless there are some questions.
Thanks, Ray. And I'll leave it to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to people ask Ray questions now or continue on with John Schmitz and detailing the changes to the sidewalk and the circulation pattern.
Chuck Industry here. Thank you, Mr. Nuff. Why don't you just continue the presentation and then we'll open it up. When you're done, we'll go through the commission.
So next is John Schmitz from BL Companies.
Hi, good evening. Again, just for the record, my name is John Schmitz. I'm a civil engineer, project manager with BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway, Meriden, Connecticut. Ray, if you could stop sharing, I'm going to share our site plan and walk the commission and everyone through the latest site plan.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop sharing, but the image changed. So let me see if I can get the same image back here. I don't know, is it possible for the,
I might be able to stop it here. Let me see if I can do that.
Who's sharing their screen right now?
Ray
Ray,
Sullivan
yeah.
is. Oh, great.
There it goes. It's
Okay,
back.
so let me see if I can share screen now and just through.
Yeah, okay. Oh, wait a minute. I got it. Now I got it. Okay.
There we go. Okay, so you should all be seeing the current site plan. This is a rendering of the revised plan. Again, very similar to what you saw last time. As Attorney Nuff mentioned, there was a meeting a couple of weeks ago between Attorney Nuff, BL staff, and Harry Smith, and the discussion revolved around how to improve the circulation, both from a pedestrian standpoint as well as from a vehicular standpoint, and that's really what I'm going to discuss, the changes that were made. So from a pedestrian standpoint, we're asked to try to provide better pedestrian circulation, not only from the parking area to the residential buildings, but also between the residential buildings and the Walgreen building, which again, for information is down here on the lower left. We always had a sidewalk to that Walgreens building, but the sidewalk kind of took a little more circuitous route up towards Route 1 into the mixed-use commercial building. What we did was add a newer sidewalk along the right side of the driveway, so that sidewalk would be closer to the storage building. There would be a new crosswalk at this location, and then tying into the proposed sidewalk here to provide some additional walking space to get to Walgreens in a shorter route. I also note there's also sidewalks around the current theater building, which obviously is going to be changed into the storage building, and those sidewalks will be staying as well. Additionally, on the right side of the plan, this is where the changes to the parking really took change. So again, you note the red dashed line I have here. This is the restriction line where we're not allowed to build any buildings beyond that line. We do have parking here, and what we've done is reconfigure that parking. You'll note that we've added sidewalks along the perimeter, which is adjacent to the existing limits of disturbance. So we have a sidewalk along this location, all along the perimeter here, as well as we created a new interior triangular island with sidewalks around there. You notice some additional crosswalks here, again, to get back to the buildings. We added another new sidewalk along the south side of the storage building, again, adjacent to these parking spaces, again, with a crosswalk to get up to these buildings. So we've added quite a bit of new sidewalks to get to the buildings. This parking has been reconfigured. We did maintain the previous connection point here, which was an emergency access requested by the fire department. So it would be like a grasscrete type surface with a fence on it. So the fire department, if need be, could get through there and get down into this area. One of the other changes we made, in addition to these parking revisions, were also to shift the dumpsters. They're at this location here. Previously, the dumpsters were located a little further away here, and it was requested that we find a better location that was more convenient for residents. So again, we have dumpsters here at the left-hand side, closer to the Route 1 side, and then also dumpsters here at the right-hand side that were shifted closer to the building. Again, sidewalks provide easy accessibility to those dumpsters. And obviously, by moving islands around, we moved curbing. Those led to minor revisions for grading, moving some catch basins around. We did revise the stormwater report and the collection system design as required in order to accommodate the revisions. Of course, trees had to shift around, light poles had to shift around. Those were all plans that were revised and resubmitted with the with revised plans that went in last week. And just briefly, one of the other things I'll share is, I know Attorney Nuff had mentioned the plan. That's your agenda. Let's see if I can get this. Let's see. Nope. That's the old plan. And just a sec. Let's see if I can move this down a little bit. There we go. So what I'm going to share is the this is one of the exhibits we had provided. We were asked to verify a more accurate method, the distance between storage units, existing storage units and ours. And what we did was we looked at it from two different methods. We looked at the distance because the regulations mention the distance between facilities. So there's a little vague of how that's measured between facilities. So we took a look at it from two ways. One was based on property line to property line, and one was from actual physical building to physical building. And from the lockup storage facility on Route 1 to our east, we are approximately 5,231 feet from property line to property line. That is for the new subdivided parcel for the proposed storage use. And then building to building, they're existing buildings, so we can measure those very accurately. 5,518 feet. We also provide coordinates. These are Connecticut state plane coordinates. They're accurate to within 1 foot. And then we also looked at another storage facility that's further to the northeast, just off Leeds Island Road behind Chowder Pot, former Chowder Pot. And those distances, again, property line to property line in the straight line, 5,334 feet. And then building to building, 5,411 feet. So I just wanted to point that exhibit out. And that kind of is a brief description of the not only the changes to the plan, but also that exhibit. And I'd be happy to answer any questions when we're ready. And I'm going to stop sharing at this point. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So just a few other sort of, not quite housekeeping, but other sort of things that I want to make clear. We will be back before the WPCA on August 13th. We are very confident that that would be approved. Our old plan with the number of units was approved. So we're confident that we'll get approval for the revised number of residential units. We have agreed in the past, and I just want to say it again for the record, that we will provide a declaration of easements, which is a very commonplace document where you have various parcels that are sharing the same facilities, whether it's parking, utilities, drainage. And so we'll supply that as a condition of approval. We have told you on multiple occasions that we are happy to comply with 5.7.d, which is found in your IHOB regulations. I've addressed all of Harry's subdivision comments in my memo, but I think that's all we have. See that Mr. Russo is here. I assume he's going to be talking about traffic, and Mike Kirker can respond to him. But the full team is here, and we're happy to engage in further discussion with the commission.
Chuck, can you share? Thank you, Mr. Nuff. At this point, we'll turn it. Harry, I know you just got. The materials came in on Friday. Do you have comments about the additions and changes and so forth?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I do in general. I have not been able to complete a review, of course, since Friday's submission of the revised plans. That also goes for the town engineer, who's let me know that he was also unable in a short time frame to provide responses to the additional information submitted. That being said, I do want to commend the applicant team for coming in. I think the site layout addresses the vast majority of the comments I raised. I understand some things are potentially not possible to be addressed, or there are constraints on them being addressed, but in general, I think this really goes a major way towards addressing some of the concerns that have been on the table here about ease of pedestrian movement, parking space proximity to the units a little. I mean, one thing I think was not mentioned was the, and I don't know if you could, I could put the plan up myself, I suppose. So maybe I'll do that. Okay. I apologize. Just gonna cue the plan up here so I can sort of speak from that a bit. I don't think mine are colored as nicely as the applicant team's versions, but okay, everybody should be able to see the site plan hopefully in a second. There it should be. So people can see that now?
Yes.
Great, okay. One thing that I don't think was really emphasized possibly is the parking down in this neck of the woods, if you will, has been sort of shifted up. So there's been a piece of parking added here in an attempt to bring it closer to the residential units. I think the addition of a bus stop seating area, I'm not sure if that was noted or not. I might have missed that if it was, but it has been added over here near the bus stop. So there's been a lot of, I think, effort to explain more fully the amenities being provided and to add a few more things into that mix. In terms of a couple of specifics, I think, as far as I understand it, dumpster location for the residents are here. And here, as was noted by the applicant's team, I don't know whether that, I think, is that a dumpster location for this building?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So
It's
you've got the
concealed.
three, and I'm not aware myself of what the standards might be for the amount of dumpsters and recycling containers and so forth for 172 dwelling units. But I would ask the applicant directly. I think some more information is needed to make sure that's sufficient. So I don't know what those standards might be, but whether he's going to be supplemented, inside the building units in some way I'm aware of, if that's necessary. So I think that's still on the table as undressed. Again, I have not gone through all this, so I certainly haven't looked at lighting, landscaping, all those kinds of things in detail in terms of how they might have been altered by this new design. I think the applicant's team covered the sewer, that there will be they'll be going to the meeting of the WPCA just to make sure there was a sewer capacity study. My understanding of the results of that was that it identified that there was sufficient capacity for this development, but that process is going to be concluded hopefully with the WPCA meeting on the 13th. I think I will stop there and turn it over to Mr. Russo, our peer review consultant. I don't think he got a chance at last meeting to really go over comments, and I know there's been a little bit of communication back and forth with the applicant's traffic engineering team. So let me stop sharing here for a minute and turn it over to Mr. Russo if you have any comments.
Good evening. Can you hear me good?
Yes, we can.
Great. Anthony Russo with SLR International out of New Haven, Connecticut, traffic consultant for the town on this proposed project. So we have reviewed 2 traffic studies so far from the applicant. The first one, which does not reflect the current site plan, we reviewed that, made comments, and then they submitted a revised traffic study, which we reviewed. They also submitted a response to comment memo, which shows how they responded to all of our comments in the revised traffic study. So for the most part, BL Companies has adequately responded to our comments. Just a few things to go over, some bookkeeping things and some things for the town to consider. One thing is we could not verify the synchro analysis, had been done accurately because we just were missing some timing information. That timing information for the traffic signals in the study area was supplied to me yesterday from the town. We looked at it today, and we concluded that the modeling and the capacity analysis and the signal timings are all done correctly, and that the results presented in the study are correct. So we can close that loop. The one comment that we made was we wanted to know more about construction traffic. The applicant responded that there would be approximately 30 to 40 workers on site at any given time from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. That was one response. We were looking for a little bit more context, a little bit more information. How many trucks, the length of the construction period, and weekday, weekend activity. And also, I'm sure on one of the site plans, it will show a tracking pad or a wheel washing station. So during construction, as trucks leave and leave the site, they don't track dirt and debris onto the public roadways. So we're looking for a little bit more description of the construction traffic and activities. Not an analysis, just more information from a qualitative standpoint. The other thing is two things for the town to consider. As you travel on Route 1 towards the I-95 ramps going east, and you're in that lane that is adjacent to the double yellow, when you go straight, it's a through lane, and as you go over to the southbound ramps, you automatically get into that left turn lane. So if you're, we were thinking that for some motorists in the area, that presents a problem because, as you proceed through the through lane, all of a sudden you end up in a left lane. If you don't want to turn left, then you got to quickly get out of it. So one thing is for maybe the town to contact Connecticut DOT to see if they want to install a sign just east of the I-95 ramps to provide notice of the lane designations. So motorists are aware of that situation. So they don't end up in the left turn lane. They know that they need to get over if they don't want to make a left turn onto the southbound 95 ramp. The other there are some locations where the movements, where the queue exceeds the storage capacity. So there's some queuing issues. These issues exist regardless of whether the project is constructed or not. The queuing where it exceeds capacity, that occurs in the existing condition, no build condition, and the build condition. The other thing the town could consider, along with requesting that sign that I mentioned earlier, is to contact Connecticut DOT to see if they can make some kind of adjustments to the phasing or timing to improve the queuing at certain movements within a study area. Again, the applicant doesn't, in my opinion, in our review, does not cause a impact requiring them to do any mitigation. They don't really degrade level of service. They don't significantly increase queue, but they did acknowledge that there is an existing queue problem. And this is something that the town could bring to Connecticut DOT's attention, and perhaps they can come up with some improvements so the queue is not as bad as it is today, where it exceeds the storage capacity. The other thing is to consider is the Institute of Transportation Engineers has a shared parking analysis. So you have a mixed-use project here. You have different land uses. The peak parking demand varies from use to use. They don't occur at the same time of the day. So sometimes when you use the ITE shared parking methodology, you will show that maybe you don't need as much parking as shown on the plan or as required by a municipality. So it's something for the town to consider to maybe ask the applicant to do, to see how many parking spaces that they get, looking at the shared parking analysis for a mixed-use project. If it shows less parking, the town is open to that, then that might provide an opportunity for less impervious surface and maybe an opportunity to provide more landscaping. So that's one thing, another thing for the town to consider. During the first public hearing, there was mention of summer traffic conditions, that in this area, they could even be worse than what was reflected in the traffic study. So we mentioned to the applicant maybe do a qualitative assessment of what summer conditions are, utilizing Connecticut DOT or other counts to make adjustments, and just qualitatively document what summer conditions look like. And again, that could be part of the letter given to Connecticut DOT to say, listen, here's conditions and queuing issues during non-summer months. Here it is during summer months where they might be worse at times as people come off I-95 onto US Route 1. And again, maybe this is something you could consider when you take a look at the project and maybe make adjustments to your traffic signals to improve queuing. And the final item was we asked for information from the applicant on a fatality, an accident that occurred at US Route 1 and Windsor Hill Road intersection, where a pedestrian was hit crossing from the north side to the south side of the street. They did provide that information in more detail. It appeared at that time that there was no crosswalk. From what I can see from the latest aerial, there now appears to be a crosswalk. So I think that that issue has been addressed, and the crosswalk presence obviously is very helpful. So that's kind of a summary of the traffic review. And as I said, the town, however they want to proceed, it's up to them and the commission and the staff, putting together a letter to Connecticut DOT to bring some signage issues, some queuing issues to their attention based on this study, and see how they respond. And they may respond in a positive way that is helpful for traffic flow and safety in the area. So thank you.
Chuck Innes. Thank you, Mr. Russo. Harry, did you have anything else before we turn it over to commission members for comments? Harry, it looks like you're muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, a couple more small items. Well, or not. The self-storage graphic that was put up, which I think I can probably bring up myself here. I'll share my screen one more time. So I just very clearly demonstrated that the measurements were from building to building as well as from property to property corner. On the site of the proposed development, that property line is, of course, the new property that will be sliced off just for the self-storage building, not the entire property line of the project. So I'm curious if you did use the property line of the entire application subject to commission and the property line right now, would you be compliant with the 5,000 feet? I'm not saying one's more valid than the other. Eventually that will be the property of the self-storage facility. But I'm just curious whether the compliance is reliant upon the measurements being taken from the new property line.
It is, yes. It is, yes.
Okay. So there's excess of 334 feet. So the distance across from the property line across the parking lot now for the old cinema is less than that.
And as John Schmitz indicated, what the regulations say is facility to facility.
No, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I'm just asking the question because I know.
I
not there.
guess.
And it might be helpful to just demonstrate you comply either way. If you do, it's up to you. Because there has been a member of the public who has questioned that extensively, and I think that person could not make tonight's meeting, and I just put their email up here just so it's in front of the commission. I think it was sent to the commission directly, and I'll make sure that has been done. But I just wanted to put this up here. Not he's saying you've not provided the documentation which you've just provided. And everyone can read this. I'll just leave it up for a couple minutes. So as staff, we will, of course, let this person know the documentation is here, and they can come in and take a look at it. And there is more information here that goes on several pages. So I will send this to the commission. It is here. Any member of the public wishes to see it. I think some of this goes back quite a ways to even conceptual discussion of the application last year. But I think it's more the same issue of questioning whether the separation distance is met, and provides his own measurements or assumptions or whatever. So there is that document. And that leads me to the only remaining question I've got, which is we have the meeting of the WPCA and getting the results of that meeting into the record. We've got probably additional comments from myself for a complete detailed review of the plans, as well as the town engineer. I'm certainly not recommending, if even the public hearing was closed tonight, I don't have any recommendation regarding action by the commission at this point. And I don't know whether the applicant wants to try and continue the hearings to the 5th, or you want to let them be closed tonight. I think one application, let's take a look. I think all of them actually opened. So they would all need time extension if you wanted to continue them to the 5th, I believe. Yeah, that's correct. So I'll just throw that out there as an open question. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Mr. Nuff, I don't know if you want to respond to the extension of the public hearing continuation, or you want to hear from commission members first.
I think it makes sense to hear from the commission, frankly.
Okay, let's go through. Let's see, commission members have some comments. Let's go around the table, metaphorically, so to say. Mr. Chadwick, Joe, you're the top name on my list, so I'm calling you first.
Okay. I am encouraged by the massing. I'm encouraged by the displacement of the buildings with respect to each other. I think having reduced the sea of parking into the clusters is a very big improvement. I'll be interested to see what happens in the sort of little spaces between the parking. I think there's a lot of opportunities there. The extent to which the former theater building is a background building, I don't know if that's ever been sort of looked at or thought about, but it's sort of not necessarily a set piece with respect to the overall planning of the residential units, nor should it be. But it's a big hunk of something that's there. And it's never really been discussed in terms of the overall design, except something to be walked around. And maybe that's fine. But in general, I am positively encouraged. The last time we spoke about this was quite late in the evening. I don't think I really had my thoughts gathered as coherently as I might have liked. But with respect to density, if there's any place in town or any project, I think that where excess density or increased density could be considered, I would have to say this would be it. I mean, this is a virtually contextless site, and the impact of density would be, totally negligible or imperceivable from the street. So if there is any concessions to be made by the commission to the applicant for increasing density, I, for one, would be willing to entertain something like that, if it helps the ratio of affordable units.
Chair Koenig, Chair. Thank you, Joe. Fred?
Yes, Chuck, I would first like to make one clarification, just that Mr. Anthony Russo and I do share the same surname, but we are in no way related. I've never met him, the man before, the gentleman before, and I just want to make sure that no one would think that there was some kind of connection between myself as a commissioner and Mr. Russo, who gave this report.
That is correct, sir.
Yes. One day maybe we will meet, but not tonight.
Yes.
Anyway, I was actually very happy to see once again that each time the commission has asked the applicant to take a deeper look at what was being presented, I think they did that with great honesty and in a very earnest way. And I was one of the people, I think one of the commissioners, who raised the issue about just the style of the buildings. And I'm glad they addressed it. They did. They made changes that just softened the appearance. I'm a very, very, very traditional guy, so I love clapboard and peaks and gables and stuff. But I'm willing to realize that there's no perfect plan for any piece of property, that sometimes you have to make certain concessions because there are other greater values to what's being presented. And, you know, one of the things that I do like is the fact that the applicant is willing to have 20% affordable housing, which I think is an issue that we're always concerned about. So, I see there's a lot more green. I think they've made provisions for their tenants to have a picnic. You don't see that very often, that kind of green space. And in a lot of ways, I think it's a tough spot to develop. And I mean, having a bigger building in the front, blocking parking in the rear, and then having green in the back, I think they're all good positive steps in this development. And so, as I said, I don't think any plan is always going to be perfect. I don't think it's going to will be satisfying every single thing. But if I had to, look at it as an overall plan, there's no question that I would be in favor of it.
Chair Koenig, Chair. Thank you, Fred. Joe Vayuso?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to commend the applicant for making the changes that they made, at least in the architecture and all that. Unlike Joe Chadwick, I have issues with the density, and I have issues with how the density was computed. In my opinion, this is a site that has already been developed with the Walgreens building, plus the large building of the theater, and the and the driveway and the roadway that goes behind it, basically behind there to get to the site. Basically, you're developing the parking lot. And in my opinion, just looking at the site, just roughly 50% or more or less of this site has already been developed by these two large buildings. So, but yet they're computing that land as part of per acre density. And I think the density should be computed on what they're developing, which is the parking lot, and which lowers that density quite a bit. And I'm looking at other situations with these PDDs that come before us, that they slap as much density as they can on the, and it's not just this applicant, but other applicants, and see what sticks. Because they figure they make it overcrowded, and they take a little bit away, and they still get what they want. But I do commend the applicant for trying to make as many improvements as possible. My opinion is that one building should be omitted and make this place and spread those other buildings out and give the people that are there more space, outside space. And I also think that by lowering the density, but also improve the aesthetics of the whole thing. But my concern is these PDDs are getting a little bit out of hand with density. But I do commend what they did, making improvements, and so if it's agreed upon that this is okay, then it is. I'm just giving you my personal opinion. That'll be all.
Chuck Candace, thank you, Joe. Marcy, I know you weren't at the last hearing.
I'm
what do you
caught
got?
up. Hi,
All right.
I'm caught up. I've been following it closely. I certainly appreciate Joe Bayos' concern about density. I've been thinking about density in broader terms, which I think we should address as a commission overall on a broader scale. But, when I do look and listen to the narrative about, getting the affordable housing and the push and pull between increasing density and what we have on the site, I do feel like they've achieved a respectable balance. One of the things that was a little new for me tonight to consider was, when you think about the intermittent parking options, I don't know of anything, and obviously you need somebody who wants to do something other than storage in the movie theater, but I don't know of any other uses that would work in the old theater building, and I certainly, appreciate the adaptive reuse of the theater building, even though it may be, 4,895 feet instead of 5,000, depending on which way the crow is flying or driving or however, I think it's, it's reasonably separate. If there's demand for the use, I think that's great. If, I know there's been lots of conversations to have other uses in there, but, unfortunately those aren't being presented to us. So, I can only consider, the use that's in front of me with an application that's viable and to get rid of that sea of parking and give it a use and to increase affordable housing. I think those are all great gains. I think that the brick architecture is refreshing. It's very high quality, which I think really starts to combat the stigma that we sometimes feel with affordable housing. So I appreciate that very much. And I think, all the sidewalks they've added, that's it's not a low budget type of proposal that they're doing, and they've given it tremendous care. I think, the issues with traffic with the lane, switching, I mean, that's a state issue. That's not this project's fault. So, I've just, continue to encourage the planting around some of the fire pit areas, that look like that could be a little bit more developed, but, these are small issues, encourage native plantings in the wetland edge. But, those certainly don't dissuade my overall, appreciation and care that the project has been given to date. So that's pretty much where I stand.
Chuck Candace, thank you, Marcy. Massimo?
Yeah, hi. Good evening, everyone. I'll tell you, I'm pretty happy with the changes that I've seen from the applicant. I'm more about I love to see that there's so much comfort added in the middle of these buildings for the tenants. I was pretty impressed with that. Also, I was thinking about the traffic and the traffic study that was done. In front of here on the main road there. And I got to tell you, the movie theater handled that pretty well. And they had, lots of cars coming in at the same time and leaving at the same time. And it seemed like the town was, it seemed like that area handled that pretty well with the traffic light there and so on and so forth. So I'm pretty happy to see that, I don't think the traffic is going to be much of an impact there. As far as the density is concerned, if it was any other area, I'd be concerned about it. I'm not so concerned about the density, just like I kind of feel like Joe Chadwick feels about this particular area. being condensed with apartments. I think if there's anywhere in town that we could get away with condensing that and getting some affordable housing, extra units in for us in the Affordable Housing Act, I think this area would be the one we that I'd be happy with saying yes to. The buffer between and I was just thinking like it would be if there's, like Marcy was talking a little bit about, certain plantings going certain areas and stuff like that. And I mean, if there could be a line of trees between that building, the storage building, and the apartment buildings, that would be a pretty cool buffer, and it would be great for for our plant life. But overall, I'm really impressed on what the applicant's team has done and how they addressed all the problems and all the issues that we had as a commission. And they really every lick of what we were talking about tried to address. And sometimes we got to be careful with that because style of buildings and certain things like that I like the more contemporary style. Everybody has a different taste, right? but that's no here or there. Both styles are really pretty, and overall, I'm really happy with the project. Thank you.
Checking to share. Thank you, Massimo. Sharon?
Hi, thank you. I also am very appreciative of the applicant's ability to listen to everything that the commission said and responded in such a really positive way. Changing the architecture really makes a big difference. I agree with Fred. I'm a Peaks, Gables, and Clapboard girl, but the look of the brick and the use of the beige and the columns, I think, really made a big difference, as well as the increased central area with the amenities for the tenants, with the gathering areas and all of that space, I think really makes it look more like a pleasant area to live in. As far as the density goes, I'm very curious actually about the traffic report and that shared use the report, that maybe there could be some decrease in the required number of parking, which might allow for a less dense kind of construction. So I don't really know anything about that. That's not my area of expertise, obviously. But if the town would pursue something like that, that might be interesting, as well as the traffic pattern there. The traffic pattern there is really confusing. So if we could get the DOT to come in and look at that, when the theater was in, I don't think that bridge had been reconstructed, and I don't think the lanes had been rerouted for that long. I think the theater had been gone before all of that construction was completed. So I really think that that is an issue of the flow and the parking. The other thing that that I still have a problem with is the use of that building as a storage facility. Now that that development looks so beautiful and residential, often you find in other residential complexes, developers offer fitness centers and clubhouse rooms and things like that for their tenants. And I'm thinking that that space in the old cinema building would be perfect for that kind of maybe family entertainment rooms or fitness center, or even, a small urgent care facility. I really feel that there is a better use for that building than storage, especially with the access that the tenants would be able to have to it. So I would love to see that kind of consideration happen. The other piece is I haven't heard anything about any infrastructure for electric vehicle charging stations. And I was wondering if that had been taken into consideration. I'm sorry I have not brought it up before. I again commend the applicant for responding to all of the suggestions that we made, and especially the use of native landscaping all throughout the property. And I really think that having affordable housing in Branford is something that we need. So I commend them for that as well. So that's how I feel about the project.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. In terms of my comments, well, we can't get Regal back. Yeah, you know, looking at it from the affordable housing point of view, we've had experiences of either a beacon application or, you know, even the idea of putting higher density stuff down by the old Branford schools or whatever, where you just generate a ton of local opposition. That the kind of you know, big picture wise, we have a duty to provide affordable housing. We have a duty to you know, to do it in a way that's consistent with our community. This seems like a good site for it. Even the opposition that we've heard isn't to the housing side; it was to the self-storage side. And I don't know, maybe there's more opposition tonight. I don't know. But so that it checks that box. The 20%, you know, that's been the push. Also, you know, I want to. We don't allow housing in the industrial zone. We know it takes longer to build out, but we do want that. You know, the office parks and have space for that. So what's left? I mean, this site works for that, and you know, so that's sort of been my overall big picture of that to you know, get the 20%, and so we get credit, and it helps people. You know, it's a real utility. There's a need. And you've done the other features. You made the dumpsters closer. Those are the kind of things I was looking at. You know, do you have to go too far your dumpster? You made an effort to get them closer. You know, little things like that. Adding the sidewalks, I think those are great. So I'm generally supportive of that. I would question about cutting the parking back even further, because I think you had to. I mean, this is complying with the state standard, which is not. It's a little bit different than our regulations. And you know, I think even though it's mixed use, you'd end up having to park real far away if you inducted. My sense is. So I mean that's just my sense of that. But so I'm generally okay with that. You know, I understand the questions about the use, although I think this project depends on self-storage because there's so little parking needed for self-storage. You put any other type of use in there, I think that would you know, you'd have to provide more parking, and it would be tough fitting it all on the site. At least that's my general sense of things. So that's those are my general thoughts. Why don't we open it up and see if there's any public comment? Does any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, do you see any?
Just to reiterate, there's a raise hand button down at the bottom of your screen. You can type into the chat that you'd like to speak, or just wave your hand in front of the camera. It looks like we do have one person. Sharon, would you like to speak?
Yes, I just have a few concerns. Going by the number of lines, I couldn't really tell how many parking spaces there were. But if you're having all those mixed use businesses that are open during the daytime, you might not be taking into consideration that a lot of people are working from home now. And so you said, oh, it won't be an issue because, you know, it's daytime use for the mixed use part. But there could be some retirees that are living there. There could be some people that work from home. So it didn't seem to me like there was enough parking for that whole area.
Find out where Sharon lives.
Yeah, Sharon.
Sorry. I put my name in and my address earlier. Sharon Smith Alling, 50 Home Place.
Thank you.
The other thing is density. I think this is huge. I mean, right across the highway, there's this enormous apartment building that was put up And I had no idea how big that was going to be. It's humongous. Do we really need another building right on the other side of the highway? Now you're saying 20% are going to be affordable. Well, most people, I know at least 4 people that are looking for housing in Branford, and they can't afford affordable housing. And then back when those senior housing went in behind the post office, my mother couldn't afford the affordable units in that building. So I know that affordable housing is based on what the rents are in Branford, but I don't think that the affordable housing is affordable to anybody in Branford. So I think that's a farce, and I think this is too big for that area, especially we have all those housing on the other half. What we really need is affordable housing in Branford, where there's units that people could actually afford, not being called so-called affordable housing. So you pass a large amount of buildings. I agree totally with Joe Bayuso. It's like you're saying that you're going to put all these apartments in there because 20% are affordable, but I don't see how those units are affordable to the people that are looking.
Chuck Industry, thank you. Are there other comments from the public?
I do not see anyone else.
Okay, Mr. Nuff, did you have any further comments? I know we left open the question of continuation. I mean, my sense is that it might be helpful if we got the WP. We're not going to decide tonight. There may be the WPCA stuff. Harry's going to make a few more comments. You may want to tweak a few things, but I mean, you could close it, but that my sense would be, why not just continue it to the next meeting? But anyway,
let me make a few responses and then maybe address the issue of closing or not. And I think you're reading my mind, Mr. Chairman, because I was going to kind of push the envelope a little bit, asking if you would consider voting this evening. And if any member of the commission were willing to do so, obviously we've been at this a long time, of course. We're heartened and we very much appreciate the recognition by the commission members, the work that the applicant has done. As you know, I'm just the guy who talks, but it's my clients and it's the team that has made all these responses. As I said, we're grateful for Harry's input as well. Just to respond specific to a few things, you're right, Mr. Chairman. The self-storage is critical both because it doesn't require parking and doesn't generate traffic. So that's a huge component of this. Commissioner Hutner's comments about a clubhouse, a gym, and urgent care, all those items are in the first floor of the building, directly adjacent to Route 1. So no need for those to be in the self-storage building, but those things are included in the first floor of the mixed-use building along Route 1. There are EV chargers shown on the plans. I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. We don't want to reduce the parking beyond what we've already done. I think this is at a minimum. I think it's the right amount. We can't reduce the parking on the Walgreens parcel by virtue of our lease with Walgreens. But I think we really hit the sweet spot on parking and don't need to reduce that any further. We've talked a lot about density. I think the commission has had a fruitful and thoughtful exchange on that issue, particularly with regard to the impact of affordable on density. I don't know that we need to go there any further. I know Commissioner Bayuso has some concerns, but as I said, density is a direct outgrowth of the 20% affordable. And we heard a comment from I don't know her last name, but the neighbor to the Tire and Lube Center over next to Aldi's. But this is the only comment we've received that's negative from any resident of the town of Branford. Met with our neighbors. None of them have come to any meeting to voice any opposition. They've come to several meetings that we've had on site, and they've been very supportive. They've been very grateful for everything that my applicant my client has done with regard to ensuring, their comfort and safety and protection from any impacts to the site. In terms of closing, I think that would be great if we could. I just don't know whether Harry is going to have something left that he needs us to respond to in substantive fashion. And I know he hasn't completed his thorough review. But I know ultimately it's our choice whether or not we close this evening. But I guess I just want to hear a little bit more.
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I can't give you really any more. There might be I think we're largely where we're going to end up being, and particularly based on all the feedback from the commission members. Some of the items I've raised and probably will raise could potentially be addressed in conditions. So I guess I sort of throw it back on you, Mr. Nuff.
Okay. Got it.
And that you won't have an opportunity to respond to anything I put forward to the commission in terms of additional comments or findings and conditions, as well as, anything from the town engineer as well. His comments are outstanding, but that's so, as staff, I'm at this point pretty comfortable proceeding to doing a final review and any, changes or issues I still see out there. I probably frame in the format of conditions, requested changes to the plans, and let the commission decide if they want to include those or not.
That's right. So in that case, we're happy to close, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, then.
And this is predicated upon getting the WPCA feedback. Would not be considered new information. So.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Since that's a response to questions already on the table.
Right. Okay, then. Does the applicants requested that we close the hearing? Are there any further comments by any members of the commission or staff?
Yes, Sharon Hutner here. I just want to thank Mr. Nuff for pointing out about the electric vehicle charging stations. I missed those on the plan, so thank you very much.
Chuck and Sharon, thank you, Sharon. Any other questions or comments from commission members or staff? Marcy.
Does Harry need to write a conditional, sometimes with big projects, you have to write a condition. It's the big, I don't know what it's called. It's a big long document that says, all the things that we've done to review and yada, yada, yada. I mean, do we want to do a poll or straw vote to give him an idea of how he can start to put that together?
Are there other conditions that you're thinking about, Marcy? Or I mean, the sense is, frankly, as I read it, is an approval. And what I don't know is if there are things like, are we, we're good with the sidewalks? You want to play with the landscaping? I mean, those are kind of like lighting and stuff like that, which I don't know.
It was more, just hearing them in the past where he goes through and says, the project was reviewed by the traffic engineer, whereas this was done now.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
I don't know if that has to happen on this, and sometimes he does a straw vote, so he has a direction. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up, just to try to not have it go yet another meeting, in response to what John's trying to get, a vote.
No,
I could certainly vote tonight if need be.
My expectation, I would like to have a written resolution, and I'd like Harry to complete his review, and I want WPCA hasn't even acted on this yet. So I think it's good to vote after they've acted. So I don't see any vote this evening. So, my suggestion is you do it written. The advantage of having it open is that, if we close the hearing tonight and Harry says, okay, you may have some tweaks or whatever, and they could actually make the changes or, say, no, I can't do that. And otherwise, we're potentially have some guesses. But my expectation is that assuming the review goes forward, we would be able to vote at the next meeting. And we'd have a written resolution available for that.
That would be terrific. And I think we still want to close.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments from anyone? Okay. So then we'll close these matters as a public hearing. Again, where's my agenda? Oh, here it is. Yeah. So it's items number, where were we? 6, 7, 8, and 9, we've closed those matters as public hearing. And we have extensions on the subdivision, right? Do we need any extensions?
They actually, I should have mentioned that Harrison Town Planner, extension was offered on the subdivision for the time period the commission needed to make a decision on that, which would expire before the September 5th meeting, since it's not a re-subdivision, we believe.
Okay, so Mr. Nuff's client granted the extension for the subdivision application for the
Correct.
to the September 5th meeting. Okay,
Yes,
great.
we covered that.
Okay, good.
Chuck, Fred Russo.
Fred?
I'm sorry, I was muted when you said was there any more responses, and I was talking to myself because I was muted. But I just want to say I think we should close the public hearing, because I think we've heard about as much as we're going to hear. I don't think anything's going to change significantly. I think we know the general consensus of what the commission is, and I think we don't have to beat it to death. We pretty much know what's going on here. I think we have a pretty good positive response. So my opinion would be, and I agree with you, Chuck, let's close it and have a resolution for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Fred. Okay, so then there's a consensus on that. We're closing the public hearing on these items, and we'll take this up at our meeting likely on September 5th. So thank you, Mr. Nuff.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Yes.
Thank you.
That brings us into item number 10, which is Anthony Capasso and Anthony and Vincenzo Capasso, trustees, and Bernard A. Pellegrino, trustees, owner, 667682 Totucket Road and 0 Tweed Road. This is the 4-lot re-subdivision and coastal site plan. I think we had opened the public hearing at our July 18th meeting. Is the applicant ready to proceed? I think the applicant is muted.
Yes. Harry, were you going to say something? Sorry, I don't.
No, just that you can unmute yourself. That's all.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah, I thought I clicked it and it didn't unmute. So my apologies. So again, for the record, my name is Tim Hool, civil engineer and project manager with BL Companies. I am out of our Hartford office, 100 Constitution Plaza. I am here to represent the applicant, Mr. Anthony Capasso, on this application, and I will initiate screen share now. Should be coming up. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this overall overall plan may seem somewhat familiar to you all. This was previously reviewed under a re-subdivision application approximately a year ago, maybe a little bit more. I believe it received approval about a year ago. So the overall process was, spring and into summer of 2023. This application, as noted, the public hearing was opened at the last meeting. However, we requested continuance without presentation. There was a little bit of a hang up with the notifications that went out. So this is the first presentation for these revisions. I don't want to go too far into it because essentially we kept the vast majority of the original approved re-subdivision intact. So I'll just kind of gloss over. Overall, it's 76 to 82 Totucket Road, and then 0 Tweed Road. Those are the 3 lots in question. So jumping back to the survey plan, these are kind of the 3 lots. We have 66. There's an existing house on that lot here. 76 to 82 Totucket is this kind of C-shaped lot in the middle, and then 0 Tweed Road is a parcel kind of landlocked in the rear. I just moved over to our revised re-subdivision plan. Essentially, this keeps the same intent as previously approved. There is a tweak on the overall layout, but it is still 4 lots. There's still 4 single-family dwellings on each lot proposed. The main highlight for the adjustments to the layout is there's a slight kink now in the right-of-way here, and then we did modify the lot configuration slightly. The overall intent here for this revision is to revise the grades through the core of the site to make it more gentle slopes as possible, and to allow for a little bit more capture of stormwater around the perimeter of the site, and then take the surface stormwater and put it underground. Overall, opening up more usable green space on the site for the collective for residences. So we did bend this subdivision road a little bit to make the grading a little bit more friendly and allow for more transitions. I'll touch on that when I jump to the grading plan in a minute. We did modify these lot configurations slightly to make sure that they comply with the minimum lot widths for the Pine Orchard regulations, which they do. And then there's a modification of the access point for Lot 4. And I'll jump to the site plan. Overall, the house locations have not changed at all. The driveway locations are pretty much the same for the front 2 lots here. The back 2 lots, we did have to kind of merge those driveways together to make sure that the lots have meet the Pine Orchard zoning regulations. But they do have ample access. Other than that, the layout, like I mentioned, we did kink this the right-of-way and the subdivision road. It is still proposed to be a private road. But other than that, the layout is substantially the same. Jumping forward to the grading plan, this is where the bulk of the changes came. Previously, I can actually bring up the previous approved plan here. So the previous approved plan, this was submitted back in July, looks like July 21st of 23. The grading was really focused just around the houses themselves and the areas immediately surrounding it, and then, you know, the subdivision road and the basin. Essentially, what we have done with this revision is to extend the grading to cover the majority of the site, to really soften out the slopes, create more usable green space on each lot for each house, and then, as I mentioned, provide for better stormwater management. A quick highlight on that: previously, the transition between these two, the front 2 lots, had a pretty steep slope coming down from the middle lot to the eastern lot. We've feathered that out a bit to slow down stormwater flow, but we also are proposing, where these flow arrows are and then the grading contours pick up, we are proposing a small drainage channel to collect that stormwater and capture it in our stormwater management system, and properly manage that to infiltrate as much as possible, but also to prevent any sort of flow issues with water flowing into some of the houses on site or potentially off site as well. We do have a similar approach along the edge of Lot 1 here, as it abuts the 2 abutting properties to the north and west. So that generally, that's one of the main drivers for the improvements. The other major improvement that we made from a stormwater standpoint is the surface stormwater basin that was down here in the southwest corner has been removed, and we are replacing it with an underground stormwater infiltration system. The primary reasons for that are twofold. One, to unlock more usable green space for the development for each of the the residences, but also to remove the surface basin, which there were heard some concerns about potential standing water and mosquitoes. So kind of provides a benefit from both standpoints. There is also a little bit of stormwater infiltration along the either side of the subdivision road. We do have a little bit in the back of Lot 4 for the roof drainage back here. But overall, it's the stormwater storage and infiltration is all underground. We do still have a drainage discharge to the DOT system, and we are we are acknowledging that we need to file with DOT for an encroachment permit for that and the driveway connection. That is in progress right now. For utilities, we realigned the utilities slightly to match up with the revised subdivision road layout and the driveway layouts, but they're all substantially the same. Still have underground electric and telecommunications, still have a copper domestic water feed to each house. We do have an 8-inch water line coming up the subdivision road and ending at a hydrant. So there is fire hydrant access at the end of the cul-de-sac, and it also provides a means for flushing of that line for the utility provider. For sanitary service, we have septics on each lot. Those are the exact same locations and size as the previous subdivision. Nothing has changed with those. And landscaping, very minor tweaks, but essentially we have the street trees all along the cul-de-sac. We are not proposing any lighting on this subdivision road, given that it's just 4 houses. We do not feel that street lighting is necessary here. And I guess one final item I would like to clarify, Mr. Capasso is intending on this development to stay within his family. He has purchased this property and is looking to do the subdivision with the intent to convey these lots to his children. So he does want to keep this in the family. There was discussion with Harry and Evan today and through the week about the open space. We're looking to use or follow the Connecticut state general statutes for the fee in lieu of, and there is an exception in there where if it is a subdivision of less than 5 lots and the properties are being kept within immediate family, that the fee in lieu of is, or the applicant is exempt from the fee in lieu of. I believe that was going to be put into a potential draft condition that we provide a written affidavit confirming that, and I believe that should be, I believe Harry was working on that earlier. So I think with that, I would like to open it up to any questions or comments.
Chuck, you just share. Thank you, Mr. Hula. Why don't we have Evan? Did you do the staff report on this one?
I did. I'll briefly go through the staff report, but I also sent out a memo this afternoon to the commissioners, sort of addressing the outstanding issues that were in my revised staff report. This is the second staff report, even though this is their first presentation. So after my first report was given to them, they made a few changes. These included the addition of one additional street tree, as well as getting us some more information on the open space dedication that they would like to take care of. They confirmed that they will privately own the proposed street, as well as have an HOA be responsible for the maintenance of the stormwater system. I did want to get the commission's impression of whether or not they would like a financial guarantee for the installation and maintenance of soil erosion and sediment control measures. We did add a condition that would require this if they would like us to do so, but I'll go back to that in a little bit. I think for the most part, they did address the majority of my concerns. Onto the memo that I sent out this afternoon, there was 4 items that were left outstanding in that previous staff report. The first of which was the open space requirement. Section 34N of our regulations, which I'll bring up right now. Let's see. All right. So here is that section that I was referring to. It does state that the open space reservation requirement shall not apply if the transfer of land is for 5 parcels or less, which this application is proposing 4 lots, and that if a family member or all the properties are to be conveyed to a family member, which they also seem to be satisfying. The commission shall require the subdivider to provide sufficient documentation to assure that any exemption claimed under this section is legally warranted. Such documentation shall generally include an affidavit by the subdivider as to the identity of the transferees and adequate language on the final subdivision plans indicating that any transfer may result or any transfer not protected under the state statute and this regulation may result in revocation of subdivision approval. I did add conditions for this that I will bring up as well. Here they are. The other outstanding issue was the applicant had submitted the East Shore Health District approval for the septic systems from last year's approval. I reached out to the East Shore Health District. They stated that there isn't any change to the septic locations or types, and that the lot lines didn't seem to protect or impact the proposed septic locations. I added a condition that would require for a formal approval from the East Shore Health District be required prior to the signing of the Mylar. We also had a memo from the town engineer as a follow-up to his original comments that I circulated to you. It seems that most of those items were very minor in nature and that a condition could be added requiring that anything from that memo be taken care of prior to the Mylar signing. And we also wanted you to make a determination on the financial guarantee for the soil erosion sediment control measures. If that is something that you guys would like to require, there was also a condition added there. Going on to the findings and conditions we're proposing. One is that the coastal site plan is consistent with the goals and policies of the Coastal Area Management Act. Our conditions are the following items shall be addressed or added to the record subdivision map to the satisfaction of the town planner or his designee prior to the signature of the chairperson and recording of the record subdivision map. A, submittal of a soil erosion financial guarantee in favor of the town of Branford. B, the applicant shall provide documentation showing all issues raised by the town engineers or in the town engineer's memo dated August 5th, 2024 have been resolved. C, the applicant shall provide an affidavit demonstrating the transfer of land as part of this subdivision is to a parent, child, brother, sister, grandparent, grandchild, aunt, uncle, or first cousin of the transferor for no consideration, and as a result, the open space reservation requirement shall not apply per sections 3(4)(n) of the town of Branford subdivision regulations. D, the applicant shall revise all applicable sheets that did show the 0.79 acres of open space that they originally had proposed shall be removed. The applicant shall add adequate language on the final subdivision plans indicating that any transfer is not protected under that state statute or under section 3(4)(n) of the town of Branford zoning subdivision regulations may result in the revocation of this subdivision approval. F, the applicant shall submit documentation showing approval of the proposed lots and septic systems from the East Shore Health District. And then finally, all requirements of section 6(3) of the subdivision regulations shall be met. And then a follow-up condition, as may be directed by the town planner or his designee, necessary measures to control any dust generated by fill brought into the site or movement of earth material on site shall be implemented.
Chuck Candace, Chair. Thank you, Evan. This question to Evan and Harry, do you have a recommendation about the financial guarantee for the soil and erosion control issues?
I think it would be appropriate.
Harry, you're muted, but yeah.
Harry Smith, town planner. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Okay. Okay, then do you have an amount, or do you?
They would have to come back with an estimate of the amount required, run by the engineering department, and then they would have 90 days to make, address all these conditions that Evans proposed, and there's additional 90 days, of course, beyond that. So it's 180 days, half a year, to do all of that, including estimating the financial guarantee, and then we'll come back to the commission to establish that financial guarantee itself.
Okay, great. Okay, let's, any questions or comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing none, then let's open it up to the public. Any member of the public wish to comment? Evan, you see anyone?
I do not see anybody.
Okay, does the applicant have any further comments?
I do not. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further comments by commission members and staff?
Joe Vayuso, I have one question.
Sure, Joe.
This is owned by one person, right? And it's being divided into 4 separate lots. And my
Correct.
question is,
It's 3 lots now, I think, right?
Yes, it's 3 lots now owned by the same person to be
Okay.
subdivided into 4 total lots.
4 total lots, but I mean, are those 4 total lots going to be separately owned and deeded? How does that work? And the road, they said they're going to maintain the road or the access road with the cul-de-sac at any time. Is that up to, at least a little bit up to, close to town standards, in case down the road you hear all of a sudden that now they want to turn it over to the town, and over time, I'm talking about many years from now, that things can change. I mean, is there anything that we should be concerned about now, or that could be handled later in the future? I was just questioning the legalities of all of this stuff.
Sure. So the properties will be transferred to Mr. Capasso's children. That's the end game. So there will be a deeding of the 4 lots to his immediate family. So I believe that should answer that first question. Regarding the subdivision road itself, we did design it to the maximum extent practicable to meet town standards. The one area where we do not is the grade requirements. This lot does have a pretty severe grade change, and there's just not enough depth in the lot to meet the vertical curve design requirements. However, everything else meets town standards. The roadway thickness and design, the width, the curb requirements, all of that meets town standards. It is the intention for this all to stay privately owned. Mr. Capasso does want this to stay within the family and have a mini family compound. However, we did design it to the maximum extent practicable to meet town standards for that very reason. So it meets town standards as best as possible. In the event down the road there is discussion about this becoming a town-owned or maintained roadway.
Thank you.
Just a question. I assume the regulations either, I don't know, it's Pine Orchard or Branford. Private roads are okay? There's no requirement to be public, I assume.
No, there's.
Okay. I didn't know if our subdivision regulations required the road be public. Okay.
It just requires it meets the zoning regulations, which in this case of Pine Orchard, and I don't believe they have a frontage requirement on a public street. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So that's what allows this to happen.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from commission members or staff? Okay, then it looks like something we can close and maybe take up in a little bit. So thank you, Mr. Bowie. So with that, that completes our public hearing items. And correspondence, Harry, you list one thing under correspondence here. Do you want to review that with us?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Let me put it up quickly. We did send this letter to the commissioners. So it should be visible on the screen now. I did this, Chairman, at your direction. And this is also going to be in the wetlands, or I think an identical version of this letter, differently addressed. This is going to be in the Wetlands Agency, as well as the WPCA. So to sum it up in a nutshell, this site along Commercial Parkway, there was a location of the former Amazon approval for a warehouse, and a recently proposed conceptual plan for residential development. One of the concerns I think raised then was that there would, by the engineering staff, was there would be a need for a capacity study of the sewer system in this area. Even though the potential residential development applicant pulled out, the property owner proceeded with the capacity study on his own dime, so to speak. And you can see the letter describes it better than I could. The results of that, apparently this firm, AECOM, conducted the capacity study. What are they calling here? A sewer impact evaluation. And it states that there were 2 manhole covers that were surcharged, which means I think water came up through them, indicating there was here a major issue of freshwater infiltration into the sewers. That consulting firm made a recommendation, as stated in the letter here, that no additional flow be added to this section of the collection system. Again, that's, I think, a direct quote. And this attorney saying until the causes of surcharges could be identified and corrected as a summation of what was in that study. At this point, he goes on to discuss nothing specific. This is really specific to the property that was subject to the Amazon approval, with respect to trying to resolve where the freshwater infiltration is coming from and try to fix that. So this is under process. The WPCA, as mentioned, discussion about prior applications and the agenda. We'll be meeting on the 13th. I can update the commission about the progress of this. There's been no action to adopt the recommendations of the consultant at this point. So I don't know exactly how the WPCA will be handling this, but we will update you further about that if you'd like us to. Or maybe you can get some direct communication from the town engineer, which would be a lot more on point probably than any summary I can provide. So I think that's probably more than enough info about the correspondence at this point. It's just out there. It's been presented to the commission and other town bodies, and there is a problem that needs to be resolved. And I understand that process to do that's underway.
Great. Thanks, Harry. It's interesting background. It's really WPCA stuff, but it also affects development opportunities within the town. And so it's good that we're aware of it. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Marcy?
I wasn't sure if I understood. So the study that he did based on the volume of sewage needed for Amazon, or is it based on the volume needed to do his development, or is it based on the current state with no proposed development?
I believe it was based on the proposal for the residential development, but it wasn't, when they did the analysis of what was going on in the system, they did some observations and testing. So during a storm event, they observed the surcharge, water coming right out of the manhole covers. So that was put forward, and that's the real issue, whether there's, and until that's resolved, they're saying there shouldn't be any additional capacity. There really is no additional capacity available because during storm events, the system's already surcharged.
And do we know if that statement is, I don't know how to say it. I mean, it kind of feels like they're trying to reserve capacity for their own development by stopping other.
I
know
know
that's
I'm
not well
getting a
said.
little out of my wheelhouse here, but I believe the study alone doesn't reserve the capacity. They would actually need to make an application to WPCA. I think they work on a first come, first served
Well, I
basis.
was just wondering if the study had went far enough to have any, potential theories as to why something like that would happen, whether it's a total capacity issue or, a bubble in the system, so to speak, that just needs maintenance. And it feels like,
I think what they're saying is somewhere there's a break in the pipe that's allowing water to get in there, or there's other things being tied in to the sewer system, like stormwater drainage, to such an extent that those storm events are creating so much flow into the system that it's surcharging up to the manhole covers.
So it's really a town-wide issue.
It's really in this area because the towns are broken up in these 50 little districts. So it's a portion of the system, a pretty big portion, and I'm going to really stop there because, this is town engineer's purview
Well, no, I think you make a really good point that there could be combined storm sewers that are still connected to the system, and I'd be very curious to know if that exists. And I'm sure that the report didn't go far enough.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it could be a lot of different things. They don't know yet, and I'll leave it to the town engineer.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Let's go back to our item number 10 of our public hearing items. That may be something we can act on. That was the 4-lot re-subdivision. Evan, do you want to pull up your staff resolution recommendation?
Can you guys see it?
Yes. Okay, so again, this is a tweak of a prior approval, essentially, it looks like. And I think Evan reviewed with us the proposed findings and conditions. Again, it's weird because it's not within our zoning jurisdiction, but it is within our subdivision jurisdiction. That's within Pine Orchard zoning. But Pine Orchard doesn't have subdivision, so they got to come here. And these are all the Evan kind of went through these. I don't know if it's necessary to go through them again. Anyone have any questions? Comments? If not, does someone, I didn't hear any opposition or comments. Here's staff believe it complies. They come within this statutory exemption for open space for distribution to family members. And they have to file certain affidavits, and that's statutory. It's in our regs too. That's covered in the resolution. You'll have to submit an affidavit. So if it looks okay, does someone make a motion to approve the application by adopting the finding and conditions as recommended in the staff report presently projected in front of us?
Chadwick makes that motion.
Motion by Joe Chadwick. Is there a second?
Fred Russo will second that.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Joe Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
Chair is also in favor. Okay, then going also in our agenda, we have 3 old business items that I believe we'll need to schedule public hearings for. Is that correct, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. I would recommend that we leave the scheduling of the hearings to the standing motion of the commission so they can be done by a staff in consultation with the chair.
Right. So if that's okay, we'll just do that. And for new business, there's one item. Is that something you want to mention anything about? That's Shretha Management, 230.
Yeah, it's a modification of the site plan portion, I think, of a special exception. I will be looking at this more closely and possibly discussing with you. I think I'm probably comfortable changing, approving the modification. The reason for it is when they went to get approved from DOT, DOT required the closing of one of the driveways, and that's altered some of the aspects of the parking lot layout in front of the building. This is an existing building on East Main Street, the big blue box, if you will. Came in for a pizza restaurant to replace some of the offices that have been there, and I think residential units. So I'll look at that and either act on it as minor or bring it back to the commission in September.
Okay, great. Okay, and then for other business, referral of an application for a use variance from ZBA for 9 Business Park Drive.
Evan's got this one.
So this referral is from the ZBA for a use variance to allow personal services. I believe it's a wax bit or a wax studio in an IG2 zone where that use is not permitted. I believe the applicant has been operating at this location. And I'll bring up the site very briefly. It is 7-9 Business Park Drive, right off of Leeds Island Road, near the Stop and Shop and Dunkin' Donuts. Let's see. Here is the actual property. Here's the actual business listed on Google. And here is the actual property and the lot lines. Number of businesses are in this location. Like I said, they've been there for a few months or a year or so. And our statutes require that use variances be referred to this commission for comment.
Our statutes or regulations?
Oh, I'm sorry, our regulations.
Okay. So just so it's clear, what we normally don't comment, I guess we could, on applications before the ZBA, and they're typically setback variances or bulk of coverage variances. But our regulations say that if someone wants to apply for a use variance, which is typically considered a more drastic change, then the ZBA should provide, refer to the Planning and Zoning Commission to see if we want to make any comments. We don't have to make any comments. And they still have to comply with the criteria for use variances in the regulations. That's their job. But that's my understanding of why we even talking about this, because for a use variance, as opposed to a standard setback or other variance, the regulations say we have an opportunity to make any comments. So with that, I don't have any comment. I'm happy with the ZBA making whatever decision they want to make. It's not a drastic item in that matter. It's not a drastic change of use, personal services in the industrial zone. So, I'm happy for them to apply the standards that they need to apply and make their decision. But what do other people think? So I'm happy saying no comment. That's fine to say.
It's all mine, no comment. There's plenty of businesses there already, so it's not like it's sticking out like a sore thumb.
Right. Okay.
Fred Russo says the same as Joe and Chuck. I agree with you.
Okay. 3 no comments. Others?
Marcy Paluzzi, no comment.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well,
you've got mail.
So, Harry and Evan, you can just transmit that the Planning Zone had no comment with respect to the application.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So anything else under other business, Harry?
We have nothing else listed, so there's nothing else we can discuss.
That's correct. It's a special meeting, right? Okay. Then does someone want to?
Fred Russo, I'd like to say one thing, just an acknowledgement that, and I'm sure everybody on the commission knows that, Elder Mac McGuigan passed away recently.
Yes.
And I just want to acknowledge he was with us for a long time as far as the commission, well before I was there. And he was instrumental as our chairman. That's how I got kind of introduced to the business. And I just thought we'd take a moment just to acknowledge his passing.
Fred, thank you so much. I'll jump in. I should have mentioned it myself. Mac was, I picked up stuff from Mac just by going to meetings for years. I did the stuff I say at the beginning of the meetings. I'm sort of just paraphrasing the way he said it. He was so good at a lot of stuff. I mean, he was really big on not being political. I remember once where we went through an administration where someone wanted to, wanted to put someone else in and demote somebody, and he just stormed up and down. I just remember him feeling real strong. You do what's best for Branford. I don't care what party you're from or whatever. And I just, that's to me like automatic. And it's probably the only reason automatic is because that's the way I was brought up, by going through all these meetings, and that's the way it was done. And he instilled that, and he's instilled a lot of stuff. I mean, so absolutely. I mean, he was a great, he was a just good, solid, everyday, regular, common sense, good guy who ran meetings well. I mean, I what can you say? And Joe Viuzzo, yeah, you've been you went through him too. I mean,
that's the whole part of being here, because there wasn't none of that political stuff. It was, you're here to do a job based on regulations, based on common sense, based on your true opinion, and no politics. And I remember that situation when somebody came in there trying to change that, and he didn't last long. We got rid of him fast.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It was a one term, but I mean, Mac was, yeah, he was furious, and so yeah, I mean, it was a great model for me. Yes, so
Chuck,
thank you, Fred, for mentioning that.
Chuck, Fred Russo, one more thing, recollection. But one thing about Mac, when it was a night for baseball, those meetings always ended early. Right. I don't care what was on the agenda. He pushed that along. I believe he liked the Red Sox, if I remember correctly.
No, he was a Yankees man. That was his fault.
Okay.
Yeah. That was
okay.
his.
Oh, when that was
his
Yankees were going to play, he was there.
Right. No, absolutely. Great.
I just thought we should mention that. So thank you for those kind words for him. I appreciate it.
Very good guy.
Absolutely. Yep. Great. Okay, with that, I guess someone will make a motion to adjourn.
Fred Russo makes that motion to adjourn.
Motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Marcy will second it.
Second, Marcy. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo's in favor.
Joe Viuzzo?
Joe Viuzzo in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
The chair is also in favor. Okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
See you in September.
Right.
See you in
Good night.
September.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.